Throughout life, we learn that family is our safe harbor. But what happens when that harbor closes its gates? What do we do when rejection comes from someone we've held in our hearts for so many years? If you've ever felt that pain of being ignored, pushed away, or even forgotten by a relative, know that you're not alone. And more than that, maybe that rejection wasn't a loss, but a protection. Today, we're going to talk about how certain separations, no matter how painful they may seem, can be hidden blessings. We'll also bring in the wisdom of Stoicism to help you face this pain with more serenity, dignity, and inner strength. Before we move on, go ahead and like this video if this topic speaks to you. Subscribe to the channel for more reflections like this one, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any content focused on emotional well-being and mental health in later life. Now let's reflect together on what might lie behind the silence of rejection. As we grow older, we learn to live with many kinds of longing, for places, for times past, for dear people we've lost. But there's a kind of longing that hits differently, missing someone who's still alive but chose to walk away. It might be a child who doesn't call anymore, a sibling who grew distant after a disagreement, or even a cousin we grew up with, who now treats us like strangers. That absence can hurt more than physical distance. It hurts because it makes us question our worth, our shared history, our memories. It's common to wonder, did I do something wrong? Or, why did they walk away like that after everything we shared? But before diving into those questions, it's important to realize we don't always have control over the ties that break. And sometimes, what looks like abandonment may actually be saving us from greater pain. Society tends to romanticize family ties, as if blood alone guarantees unconditional love. But the truth is, respect, care, and genuine presence don't always come from those who share our last name. Recognizing that is painful, yes, but it can also be the start of a new kind of emotional freedom. Freedom that comes when we stop idealizing certain bonds and start seeing relationships with more clarity and maturity. In the next chapter, we'll explore why some rejections, as painful as they are, might actually be a quiet form of protection, a kind of liberation that with time reveals itself as an unexpected gift. It's natural to see rejection as punishment, as something meant to hurt or diminish us. But what if, in some cases, it's the exact opposite? Over time, many older adults come to realize that some family ties weren't as healthy as they seemed. Relationships marked by blame, subtle humiliation, lack of empathy, people who were always around, yet constantly drained our energy. When one of those people pulls away or pushes us away, the first feeling is pain, but after the shock fades, something changes. The body relaxes, the heart slows down, the mind breathes again, as if we've finally been given permission to live in peace. That's when we realize, maybe it wasn't a loss but a form of protection, an invisible wall that spared us more pain, that allowed us to see ourselves with more kindness, more autonomy, more clarity. It's like the rain that ruins your plans but prevents an accident, or the phone call that didn't happen and avoided a harsh argument that would have left deeper wounds. Of course, none of this erases the pain of rejection, but it gives us a new lens to view what happened, a more compassionate, more mature, more realistic lens. In the next chapter, we'll bring in the wisdom of the ancient Stoics and learn how to apply in everyday life, a philosophy that helps us separate what we can control from what we can't. When a family member pulls away, our minds swirl with questions. What did I do? Can I fix this? Do they still think about me? These thoughts wear us down. They take our sleep, our appetite, even our joy in the simple things. But there's an ancient wisdom that can help us find balance again. Stoicism. Stoic philosophers taught us something simple yet powerful. Inner peace begins when we learn to separate what's within our control from what isn't. Their behavior? Out of our hands. How they treat us? Also out of our hands. But how we respond to it, that's where our power lies. Accepting this truth helps us step out of the role of the victim and take back the reins of our own lives. Because in the end, trying to change someone else is like trying to hold water in your hands. It's exhausting, and it doesn't work. We can, and should, act with love, with respect, with honesty. But we need to understand that this alone may not be enough to keep a relationship alive. And that's okay, because living well doesn't depend on having everyone present. It depends on having the right ones present, starting with ourselves, whole, calm, and aligned with what we believe and value most. In the next chapter, We'll reflect on what grows within us after rejection, and why that moment might mark the beginning of a new version of yourself, stronger, lighter, and more faithful to who you really are. We don't always realize it right away, but some kinds of pain shape us in ways we never imagined. And among them, the pain of family rejection is one of the deepest and also one of the most transformative. After the dust settles, after the tears dry, after the silence becomes normal, something begins to stir inside us. A new awareness, a strength that was dormant, and above all, a more generous way of seeing ourselves. It's as if, without even knowing it, rejection led us back to who we really are, without the weight of constant expectations, without needing approval, without having to hold on to ties that only caused harm. Many older adults, after going through this, discover a new kind of emotional freedom. They learn to value honest friendships, peaceful moments, and the joy of their own company. They redefine what family means, what love means, and what it truly means to belong. And perhaps most importantly, they start treating themselves with more respect. They set boundaries where guilt used to live. They say no without fear, and they wisely choose who deserves to stay close. Rejection, when processed well, can lead us to a new kind of love, mature self-love, the kind that doesn't come from pride, but from dignity. In our final chapter, we'll talk about how it's possible to give new meaning to this pain, and why forgiveness, even silent forgiveness, might be the last step to freeing yourself from burdens that were never yours to carry. After so much pain, so many unanswered questions, and so many quiet nights, the soul eventually asks for peace, and that's where forgiveness comes in. But not the dramatic kind with reunions or speeches. We're talking about quiet forgiveness, private, honest, born inside you, and it needs only one thing: truth. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting what happened, it means remembering, without reopening the wound. It means accepting that it was part of your story, but it doesn't get to define who you are today. In later life, we learn that holding grudges only makes the one who carries them sick, and that letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Maybe that person will never apologize. Maybe they'll never return. Maybe they don't even understand the pain they caused, but that can no longer be the center of your life. You're not here to live around what was missing. You're here to take care of yourself, to enjoy the time you have with more peace, more authenticity, and more awareness. Forgiveness is a decision, and when you decide, your heart starts to breathe again, and life, even with its scars, moves forward with more lightness. Now that we've reached the end of this reflection, here's a question for you. What was the most important lesson that rejection taught you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video if it helped you in any way, and send it to someone who might be going through something similar. And remember, you didn't lose, you were saved.